is a checklist for the EPA and for the property owner to fill out. It's that it's that 15-page document that you need to fill out as the property owner so that you can give that to FEMA and the EPA to start the process of cleaning up your particular property. And all the cost is borne by the EPA or FEMA. They're going to take care of all the cost. Hello and welcome to Raw Architecture. My name is Andrew Hernandez. I'm a California licensed architect. And today I want to go over kind of an update of what's been going on in the last week. Today's February 1st, 2025. And I want to go over the last week of what has been happening in Los Angeles and the Palisades area. And go over some of the options for property owners. And we're going to go over what's going to take place in the rest of February and March. Okay. All right. So let me switch scenes here. The next thing is Monday evening update. All areas under evacuation orders are now open for residents. Los Angeles. All residents in the Pacific Palisades can now access their properties following unified command authorization earlier today and final 2 evacuation zones. See the information below and enter at your own risk. Escorts are no longer required for entry to evacuation zones. Checkpoints remain in place and proof of residence and entry pass will be required to enter the areas. Resident and contractor access pass can be obtained at 1150 Pacific Coast Highway, Lot 3, near the Santa Monica area. Curfews remain in place under the evacuation order. It says here, contractors will be allowed in the fire area to conduct assessment work. Contractors will be required to provide identification and proof that they have been hired by the specific residents within the impacted areas. Contractors must report to the check-in area at Lot 3 to be granted access and provided a pass to enter. So they're still doing checks. You know, all of the contractors, engineers, architects, insurance adjusters, they still need to go and check in at Lot 3, and they also need to show proof that they've been hired by a property owner. And for some safety measures, it says here, wear a tight-fitting N95 mask or greater. The N95 mask is key to keep the dust and debris out of your respiratory system when you're breathing in through your nose or mouth. So wear an N95 mask, and it says wear gloves and wear safety goggles. Same thing. They're trying to make sure that you don't inhale any of the debris. Mayor Bass and Chief Recovery Officer Steve Soberoff visited the area today, the 28th. They visited on the 28th. Great. You're about a week late to visit it. Okay, moving on. There are 2 temporary FEMA resource centers opening on Tuesday, January 28th. I'll leave a link in the description to this, so people that need to find this these FEMA locations can go to those links, find those there. Okay. EPA response deployed in burned areas. Further information at EPA wildfires, LA Department of Water and Power Palisades restoration. So you have the EPA going to be cleaning up all of the asbestos components and hazardous materials components, and then hopefully simultaneously, the LA Department of Water and Power is going to start restoring those utilities to the properties so that once the construction starts and people start rebuilding, there's power and there's water, and hopefully the sewer system is not too backed up either. And so those utilities will start coming back online at some point. Obviously, they need to do an analysis of what infrastructure needs to be replaced and the breaks in the distribution of the power and the water, but that is taking place right now. So they have a do not drink notice in effect, so don't drink the LA water. I think anybody that lives in LA kind of inherently knows this, so they're just reminding you, I guess, to not drink the water. And there's water available, bottled water available at Veterans Barrington Park and Palisades Branch Library. So if you need to get some bottled water, it's available to the affected residents. Monitor air quality. For anybody that's missing pets, they have a pet evacuation area, and you can call the number there and see what services are available for your pets. Moving back to the EPA component, somewhat the water and power component. So now that you have access back to your property and you can start bringing in contractors, they have these forms that they want you to start filling out for phase 1. And phase 1 is the debris removal. So they have these 2 forms, right of entry forms. One of them is an opt-in and one of them is an opt-out. The opt-in form here is a checklist for the EPA and for the property owner to fill out. It's that it's that 15-page document that you need to fill out as the property owner so that you can give that to FEMA and the EPA to start the process of cleaning up your particular property. And all the cost is borne by the EPA or FEMA. They're going to take care of all the cost. However, there's a caveat to that with people that do have insurance. So going through this document, if you want FEMA and you want the government to clean up your property, this is the form you need to fill out. They will take care of all of the financial, unless you have insurance. It'll be a reimbursement type of deal. So the deadline to submit this opt-in form is March 31st. Today is February 1st. You have a little over, you have exactly 60 days, something like that, to fill out this form and get it over to them as soon as you possibly can. What is going to end up happening is you're going to have 3 houses on one street and 3 houses on another street, and all of these intermediate properties have not filled out their paperwork, so it's just going to slow everything down. Depending on how they sequence and schedule the debris removal and who has put in these forms, that's going to be a logistics issue later on when they start this process. So you want to get your forms in as soon as you can, and hopefully you have a good relationship with your neighbors. You can talk to them, try and get your whole block settled, and trying to get your whole block forms turned in so that you guys can hit your entire block at the same time and really speed things up, move things along. This is just some more information on the form. So you're going to fill out the name of the owner or an owner's representative. So if you're having somebody kind of take care of this for you, you need to authorize that person to do so. And moving down here, the only activities that are allowed at this phase 1, are going to be assessment of the property to identify hazards, hazardous trees, environmental resources, asbestos containing materials, and removal of all of those things. So a bunch of removals: remove ash, remove debris, remove foundations, remove all hazardous materials, and do complete demolition. And then they're also going to be looking at certain properties that might have tribal, archaeological, or biological resources. They're called historic resources, and they're usually preserved, so that will be a component for some properties. All right, moving on to the next page, you need to evaluate which option you want to do in this opt-in form for phase 1. Do you want to keep your foundation? A lot of these homes were built in the 1920s to 1970s, and a lot of the foundations will not meet current building code. And when you go to rebuild, you will have to meet current building code. You don't just get to retroactively go back, build how they used to build. You have to meet today's code. And those foundations that were built back then, they are not robust enough to meet current code. So I always recommend, if your house was built before 1994, 1995, scrap the foundation. If it was built after 1994, 1995, then I would have the foundation evaluated. If you want to keep it, there's going to be a cost borne to that. So generally speaking, 95% of people will just need to scrap their foundation and start fresh. Otherwise, if you're unsure about that, so talk to an architect like myself, talk to a structural engineer, get some advice on if you need to have your foundation removed. So before 1994, get rid of it. After 1994, get an evaluation if you want to keep your foundation. Okay. Insurance reimbursement. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. So the government is going to cover the cost of all of the debris cleanup in this opt-in form. However, if you have insurance, you have to fill out this next portion of this document to tell your insurance company and share your insurance company policy number with the government, so that the government gets reimbursed by the insurance company for the cost of the debris removal. So if you don't have insurance, you're covered. If you do have insurance, you're covered, but the insurance company has to reimburse the government. Okay, very simple. Just fill out this portion of the form and turn it in. And then the next item that I wanted to cover is release, indemnification, and incidental damages. So this basically releases the government and all of the government workers from liability if something is damaged on your property. So let's say you wanted to keep your foundation, but during the debris removal, they completely crush your foundation. They are not going to be responsible for that. So if anything gets damaged, that's just too bad for you as the property owner. Basically what this is saying, and you have to agree to this, unfortunately. Okay, moving on to the next item that caught my eye is the property sales. Any property that is sold prior to insurance cleanup certification will be withdrawn from the program unless both new and previous owners sign a property transfer affidavit and the new owner fills out the ROE. Costs for the work completed will be billed to the insurance company of the owner of the property at the time of the wildfire, if applicable. So if you sell your property, the cleanup is going to still be billed to you unless you go and enter into an agreement with the new property owner so that it gets sold to them. This is a very detailed item that you need to focus on and figure out, because I don't want you guys to get stuck with the cleanup bill and you sold your property. You're still responsible for it even though you sold the property. That's basically what this is saying. Pay attention to this one, and anybody that's looking to sell their property, make sure that this is taken care of in that component of the agreement. Okay, and it just has some more information it's asking for, and this portion of the document talks about the property information. So they're asking for the address, what year it was built, is it currently occupied, is it a house, how many structures are on the property, description of the structures. It's just going through a whole bunch of items that you'll have to answer to describe your property. And it's going to ask for destroyed vehicles. They want to make sure that the batteries of the EV vehicles, they want to know where those are for each property. So that's something you'll need to document. Moving on to the property sketch, take a screenshot of Google Maps, the overhead aerial view, and just plop it on there, and throw some dimensions, some numbers on there of the approximate property size. In your title report, you should have a property line diagram or outline. It'll give you the property line measurements. I think that would be sufficient for this. But if you have any questions, talk to the people in charge of this and see if there's a way to do that, or if you can hand sketch it, you can hand sketch it. But use Google Maps aerial view, and you'll be able to dial this in pretty simply. So that's for the opt-in checklist. And again, you have till the 31st of March to get this done. And if you don't want to opt in, the other option is to opt out. And everything I just described in that first opt-in, where they're going to do the debris removal and remove all the hazardous materials, review the foundation or keep the foundation, all of that, that's going to be just borne on the property owner if you opt out. So either the government does it or you do it and you pay for it, or your insurance covers it. That's obviously an option as well, but you would have to coordinate it and dial all that in, dial in all the professionals that would have to do that, and they have to meet all the regulations, the cleanup regulations, and it's a pretty significant amount of work. I recommend people opt in, but those that want a little more privacy or don't want to wait for the government to do it and want to just pay for it, if you have the money to just pay for it, then you can opt out and you can just run the job on your own. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope it was helpful. Check the links in the description for those two forms, the opt-in and opt-out phase 1 forms for the debris cleanup. Check back in every now and then, every week. I'm trying to put one of these videos together to give updates on what's going on for the property owners, so that once we start building up to the point where we're able to bring in architects, designers, engineers. I'm taking on clients now. I know a lot of architects are also getting contracted to start the design process, which you're welcome to do. I invite that. There's going to be a big long line of people trying to get building permits. There are also a few other things going on as far as self-certification for rebuilds of single-family residences. So there's a lot of moving parts still, and I think a lot of undecided components to the rebuild portion. They're focused on cleaning up right now, but the next phase 2, is going to be the rebuild, and that's going to be the massive undertaking. I recommend get an architect, talk to an architect, get a idea of what you're looking at now so that you can start planning for it. Okay, and I'll catch you on the next one.